For this block, I use the Tri-Rex tools. The Tri tool and the Rex tool. And I used a little piece of 3M Transpore transparent tape on the back of my rulers. They have a little bit of a grid-like appearance and feel. You just have to use a little bit of this and it will help grip your fabric with your ruler. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using a piece of muslin for my background and a print for my triangles. This is going to become my background diamond, and this will become my triangle pieces that surround this. Just fold your piece in half lengthwise and put the fold right on one of the inch lines. Open it up and line up your tri-tool ruler centered on that inch line, and you may have to move it around a little bit to get it centered. You'll want to make sure that you have the same amount on either side, and you can eyeball that to make sure. And what you'll do is take your rotary cutter and trim on one side and then trim on the other. Turn your mat around and you'll do the exact same thing to the opposite side. Making sure that you have the same amount, it's like a 1/4 inch on the left and the right, and trim those. When you're finished, you should have a diamond shape. Next, we will cut the triangles that will be the pieces that we sew onto these sides. Take your print fabric and fold it, either right sides together or wrong sides together. It doesn't matter which way you fold it. We just want to make sure that we have mirrored pieces when we cut, so that we'll have a side for the left and a side for the right. Line it up. Make sure that you trim off the little tip. We will use that to line it up with our block. And once again, make sure you trim that little corner triangle. Now I have mirrored pieces that I can use to add to either side. I have lined up my diamond piece with the center again on one of my inch lines, and I have the bottom of that touching another one of the inch lines. This is important to go ahead and have your bottom touching here, because I want to be able to line up this piece with another one of the lines on my mat. So I take this piece, I flip it over, and this is where that notch that I cut earlier, I'm lining up that notch with the line on my mat. This will stick over a little bit, and that's exactly the way it should be. So we'll take this to the sewing machine and I'll sew it, and we'll come back and have a look. I started sewing at this tip, 1/4 inch seam all the way down, and ended at this point. Now I'll take it and I'll press it very gently to make sure, because these are bias seams, not to stretch it. Here's the piece pressed. I'm going to lay it back down exactly as it was, lining the points centered on that line, and I'm going to take the next piece and flip it over and line this up again with that line here on my mat, making sure that they line up. I'm going to pick it up. This time I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to sew from this side, from the point down to the side. Here you can see I've sewn from the point all the way down, and on the back I'll flip this open and gently press. I went ahead and clipped my little bunny ears, so you can see I still have that blunt end that I had, and that I'm going to now line up on the bottom. Once again, lining up the point with the line on my mat. I'll just flip those around, making sure that I still have them in the correct position so that I don't have something like that going on, because that's not going to work. Okay. Once again, I'll take this, flip it, line this up with this line. There we go. Now I'll take this to the sewing machine and come back and show you the next step. At this point, it all looks the same as when we did the first one, until you get to here. And it looks a little weird, like we didn't have enough fabric, but that's okay. We have all the fabric that we need for this block to work. And our seam crosses over here. We have a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to take this and press it again gently. Having pressed the seam now, you can see that yes, there is a little bit cut off, but we do have enough fabric here that when we sew our 1/4 inch seam and putting blocks together, we're not going to have a problem with this block coming apart. So I'll lay this down one more time. Once again, lining it up on this line with the point. That line with the point, turning this over, lining up the piece with this line. If you're making sure to line this up with an inch line at the bottom, you're not going to have any problems figuring out which line it is that you're lining up this piece. I'm lining up this notch with that line. And one more seam to sew. Once again, on the second piece on one side, I went ahead and sewed from the back of the block instead of the front. It's just easier to turn it over, and instead of trying to sew from this point down, it's easier to sew from the top down through that end. And all I have left to do is trim off that little bunny ear. And when I lay my block down, it measures 8.5 by 4.5. And that's how easy it is. For the alternate blocks, you just make sure that you're putting one print on one side and the other print on the other side. All right, we are almost to the end. One more clue to go.